Hi, I'm Spike Carlson. I'm a contributing editor to the Family Handyman magazine, and today I'd like to introduce you to one of my favorite tools. It's the Biscuit Joiner. Some people also call it a plate joiner. If you're familiar with how dowels are used to put two pieces of wood together, you'll be very comfortable and familiar with the idea of how you use a biscuit to do the very same thing. All you really need are the biscuit, the joiner, and the glue. Let's take a quick look at each of these three and see how they work. The first thing you need is a biscuit joiner. A biscuit joiner is a tool that contains a little blade that cuts a slot when you press the tool against the wood. It's adjustable in several different ways. You can adjust the actual height between the blade and the plate so you can join different thicknesses of wood. It's also adjustable in terms of how deep the slot is that it'll cut. The reason it's adjustable in that respect is because there's three different size biscuits. There's a 0, a 10, and a 20. And depending on the type of joint you want, that'll determine the type of biscuit you need. You'll notice that the biscuits are slightly scored, and that leads us to the third element. That's the glue. The glue is used to join the wood together, to hold the biscuit into the joint, but it also helps to expand the biscuit slightly to make the joint even tighter. One of the reasons I love a biscuit joiner is, unlike dowels where the holes have to be pinpoint accurate, with a biscuit joiner you have a little slop in the joint when you put it together. You can use it for lots of different joints. Here's three of them. You can use it when you're edge gluing boards. You can also use it when you're putting together wide miters. And you can even use it for, if you're building a bookcase, for instance, and you want to put in some permanent shelves, you can use that to make perpendicular joints also. But the real place it shines is in making butt joints like you would in a cabinet face frame. And so we're going to take a look at that in depth next. So a face frame is what you see on the face of lots of different cabinets, bookcases, and other pieces of furniture. It's what you use to hide the edges of the plywood, and so it's very common to use butt joints on these types of joints. You could use nails, you could just use plain glue, but here's the beauty of a biscuit joiner. You can use it for that. You'll get a strong, attractive joint with no visible fasteners. The first thing you want to make sure is that all your pieces are cut the right length and that they fit together fine. The next step is to number things so you don't get things mixed up in the heat of battle. It can be just as simple as numbering them 1, 2, 3. The next thing you want to do is mark the center of the biscuit. We're using 1.5" material like you'd commonly see on a cabinet face frame, and so we're going to make little tick marks at 3/4 of an inch. At each joint, we're going to extend that tick mark right across, and like I say, that's going to mark the center of the biscuit. It comes in handy because the biscuit joiner tool has a little tick mark that also marks the center of the biscuit. Again, one of the beauties of the biscuit joiner is you're going to have a little bit of play when you put the pieces together. So while you want to be close, you don't have to be exactly on the money. All right, so we have the pieces marked. We have the center of the biscuits ready to go. Let's go ahead and cut the joints. So make sure that your plate joiner is adjusted correctly. You'll want to make sure that it's going to cut the right depth biscuit for the joint you're making, and you want to make sure it's adjusted for the thickness of the board that you're cutting the joint into. You have your tools marked out. You want to make sure that the little tick mark on the bed of this is lined up with the little tick mark you've made on the board. Turn on the tool. Your slots are cut, your pieces are roughly positioned. Let's glue this thing together. You take your glue bottle and you're just going to make a nice, even distribution of glue in each of the joints. You're going to do it in the slots themselves, You're also going to just do a little bit of glue where the actual wood is going to contact the wood. You're going to do the two vertical pieces, and then you're going to do the horizontal cross pieces also. Again, the biscuits that we use are going to protrude just a little bit past the edges of these, but we're going to cut those off when we're done. If you want to, you can also cut them off beforehand. You have to work pretty quickly. You probably have about 5 to 10 minutes to get the whole thing put together before your glue starts setting up. Sometimes it helps to have a helper. Slide those biscuits in. Again, try to be pretty centered, but you don't have to be exact because, like I say, you have a little bit of play with how these go together. Make sure everything's positioned correctly. Once you have everything in the right position, go ahead and take your clamps. Again, if something's a little bit off, you got a little play so you can tap it into position. Tighten those clamps. Get everything snug together, then let the glue set up for about an hour before you go on to the final step. The glue's dry. Let's take off the clamps and see how we did. There we have it, a good solid face frame. In some cases, you're going to wind up with little nibs of the biscuit sticking out past the project. In that case, take a fine-tooth saw and just carefully remove that part of the biscuit. It's not going to happen in every case. You can take those little holes and fill them up with putty. On the inside corners, you may have the same thing. So there you have it. A good solid face frame, minimum of hassle, no fasteners. That's why I love my biscuit joiner.